So if you check 10% of 6,712, what will it translate to? 600 and what? 71 best places. See the allocation. Everything is well spelled out. Nothing is hidden.
A few, very little number of students get hostel at the end of the day after the day allocated for that particular year. So what's the reason behind these technical issues?
Thank you very much. Number one is that you need to be properly educated. And please pay attention. And I believe you're here for purpose of honesty and integrity and sincerity. Issue of online allocation of hostel is something you need to understand. And before you leave, I'll give you the template so you can see the templates. We don't hide anything here. This university is built as a residential university. It's both what we call a land grant university and a residential university, meaning at inception, once you get admission, you should live within the periphery of the university. That's the idea. That's the ideology by Zeke, the founding fathers. So we can train people holistically. Secondly, is a land grant university because it's going to be agricultural driven. So University of Nigeria has the oldest faculty of agriculture. I'm just giving you history. Now, and many other oldest faculties, so to say. Now, when these hostels were built, they were built to accommodate the number of students that you had then. This university started with 220 students. How many? In 1960, October 7th. And as of today, our total population throttles around 65 to 67,000 students. If you now do your arithmetic correctly, you can now check the geometric progression of the student population. So ideally, we should be developing hostels inside school over this number of years. Of course, the issue of economy, policy direction, focus, funding are factors that will determine, are you following, what a particular administration will do. Now, all these hostels, what I call them upland hostels, because they're this side, where are females? Today, females have taken over all the male hostels. This Ajawachukwu was a male hostel, Okeke was a male hostel, Akpabe was a male hostel, Oketara was a male hostel, Isakata was a male hostel, Bello was a male hostel. Almost, because then men were more in number, the males. Professor Charles Igwe, the current VC, lived in, I think, Ajawachukwu. He was even a hall governor. But today, the females have taken over because the females go to school more. I'm trying to give you history, so you'll be balanced. You can now see and write what you want to write. Now, the newest hostel amongst them was built in 1963 because they were constructed with quality materials and all the rest, so they are strong buildings, and it takes a lot to maintain hostels. Over the years, the Odele hostel came up because Nkrumah used to be postgraduate hall. Today, females have taken it. And Odele hostel came up. A partnership between the then governor of Rivers State, Peter Odele, His Excellency Peter Odele, and the University of Nigeria. Now, and then after some time, we had the presidential hostel that is here. Remember, as I'm talking here, we're talking about Tenugu campus. We have a total of 17 hostels in Nsukka campus. The Zix flat that has 20 blocks went down completely because it got dilapidated due to aging and unavailability of funds for maintenance. Maintenance of buildings are quite costly. As I speak, the project is about to commence for the reconstruction of that Zix block of flats. So what history am I trying to make? since the population of students grew, the ratio of or the probability of a student getting hostel online became slimmer because we normally have the template for allocating hostels. When I became dean, University of Nigeria has a total of approximately 13,600 bed spaces for our 3 campuses. 13,000, just call it more than 14,000. The Nsukka campus, before I became dean, a lot of fraudulent activities were going on, and some bed spaces were not online. You won't see them online, but people will now go behind and allocate it. So, but when we come online on board, every bed space was uncovered, and I increased the bed space from around 5,200 to now 6,900 and something. Nearly 2,000 bed spaces were recovered for Nsukka campus. I have today 6,714 bed spaces of different standard, and then what you call what do you normally call it? Those non-standard rooms. They say it's toilet and another. Bermuda, yes, Bermuda. Now and then Enugu campus has slightly towards 4,000 total. It's not up to 4,000, 3,000 something. They have 8 hostels, including the old UNTH. And then it took us our house about less than 2,000 bed spaces. So if you add together, that's the total I'm talking about. Now, for the online allocation, we now split this number in the Nsukka campus. Females are more, of course, and they have more hostels. If I get that report in that cupboard, you'll see my report for previous years. You now have to consider how do I apportion these spaces? You must consider first years who are just coming in. So they take the highest population, the higher percentage of 60%. I following 40 to 60%. Because we need to give them, do you understand, higher number. There are more. Or even if there are not more, they are just coming into school. We need to save them from the depraved society. Because some of them are young girls, and there are things that happen, and a young girl will end up in a mess. So like this year, I had to put every first year that came here into temporary accommodation because of experience I've had. There's a young girl who just come into school, and these boys will look at her face and say, you look stressed. The girl will think that somebody wants to help her, not knowing that he's looking for another thing. Say, you look stressed. I had a, let me not take your time. And before you know it, you see cohabitation in increase. A girl will just follow a boy who is a drug addict, who is into all manner of rubbish. And then the young girl will not know what she has entered into. Before you know it, her life is ruined. So this year, I insisted that every first year student must be given temporary accommodation so that I'll take my time. So if you check 40% of about 6,700, you know what we're talking about. Are you following? You know the total number that first years will get. Do you understand? You now give to final years 20% because they are big boys and girls. You now come back to other years, second year to fourth year or to fifth year, depending on the kind of program, you give them 20%. Are you following? So 40% to first years, 20% to final years, 20% to other years. That's how many percent? 80. 80%. Am I correct? Then 10% is reserved for staff children. Are you following? Reserved for what? Staff, biological children. But these days, this thing collects from every students will even go and beg a staff, please write for me. I know those things. I still collect. So if you check 10% of 6,712, what will it translate to? 600 and what? 71 bed spaces. Am I correct? Now, 5% is reserved for management staff. Management staff will include principal officers, include deans of faculty, include those that are occupying some exalted position. 5%. That's about 300 and something best spaces. And then the last 5% is reserved for friends of the university. There are pro-chancellors. There are council members. There are external members, though, because the internal members fall under the staff. There are ministers of education. There are NUC staff. There are this. We leave 300. So you can answer the number. Now, I want to ask you a question. If 40% of the accommodation is open for first years, and then we don't just open because admissions come in batches. Like now, we're expecting the last batch of a mop-up admission, for 2022-2023 session. You don't expect the dean to be unfair to those students who are to be admitted, to release the 100%. So what do? We release 70% for the first two batches of admission have been released. So 70% of the 40% was what was released to first years. Are you following? Just do the arithmetic and then check the total number of first years that are going to compete for that number of spaces and check the probability. It is a system. If like my phone is on fire, 10,000 people are calling this line, you discover that only one person will succeed at a time. So again, it's the issue of bandwidth. If we had a very bogus bandwidth, of course, it's a very costly project to have that kind of bandwidth, and we don't have sponsors. Funding is very critical now in education, and the number of spaces you're looking for are quite limited. I've taken time to explain all this. So that is the explanation of server busy. Aside technical glitches that can happen with any system, sometimes your phone will stop working. Sometimes your phone will stiff and you are trying to browse and it's not going. So heavens will not fall because of that. So these are normal issues because we are concerned. So when our detractors or treacherous beings or mischievous persons turn around and say that they are hiding best spaces, yes, some persons can be mischievous. In 2019 alone, I, the dean, by God's grace, I unearthed one of the biggest fraud about hostel racketeering. If anybody is in final year or these ones that they will know, because some staff of ICT colluded with some persons to open the back end of the software and then use their password to do what? Allocate best spaces to people who are not qualified. Are you following? And the information came. And I shouted, I said, even if it's my wife that is involved, the person will go in. This is my child. My VC was in the US then. I called him. I said, sir, something has happened. And anybody who is involved, sir, I would like to have your support that person should be severely punished. Do you know, to my greatest surprise, we started investigation. And as God will have it, if you have a four-room hostel, 4-room, when you give 40% to first years, automatically 2 best places belong to the first years. That means C and D. So you now see third year students getting corner C, getting corner D, final year students getting corner D. Of course, we now know that this is where our problem came from. And they now went to the back end. They saw all the password that facilitated it. 4 staff were involved. The VC suspended them. We revoked 719 best places that were paid for. I following. It's in history. It was under my government as dean of student. So it is not as if students are just suffering because we want them to suffer. No. Given the opportunity, every single child, every single student of this should live inside campus because there is unquantifiable advantages living in a campus is invaluable. The residential system of education is invaluable. And to prove my burden, that I have burden, I became associated. I started talking to God about hostel. And for the first time in Nigerian history of Nigerian University, we're the first university to have a BOT, build, operate, and transfer hostel going on. For those of you who stay close to Franco, you see massive construction of 13,600 bed spaces, standard, international standard. What they're doing there is British standard. Go and check. It was under my watch. God gave us that grace. Then VC, Professor Zumba, with the governing council, they did all the normal due process, and then the company was given the chance, the opportunity to start the construction. They've dumped almost 11 billion on ground there. They are yet to complete the first phase, and they are trying hard to come so that this VC will commission those hostels. We are doing a lot. Mbanefo started collapsing, and the university had to quickly stop housing students that hostel. I've mentioned this flat, but today I'm happy to announce to you that Mbanefo is almost 95% completed. The forms you see there are from Mbanefo, new forms, and very soon we have those. In fact, VC has approved that we deploy students to Mbanefo. Are you following? We're just waiting for the what do you call it, the contractor to do the needful. Are you following? So that students can now. But again, I'm announcing that it's going to be for females too, because we will not take the risk of putting boys in a hostel linked to where girls are staying. In as much as I am comfortable with my students to a very large extent, you cannot rule out that one night one mad boy can just pretend to be a student of UNN and then follow that side and go and harass my children. I won't want that. So we are. I'm trying to look for the VC approval to use Mbanefo. So we are working hard. This is the template for allocation of hostel, which I promise you will see. And if you're okay, I will give you a photocopy. So by and large, and then we're also grateful to God that Third Fund is giving us another female hostel up there. In fact, they're about to roof. They're about to roof the hostel. You can see their location. Everything is well spelled out. Nothing is hidden. So you can see the percentages. You can see the number. You can see how they're located. So that when somebody is saying, I'm clicking and I'm not getting, 1 over, we have, say for instance, check the first thing there now for first years.
45%. That's 2,139 bed spaces.
Beautiful.
134.
134. Now, do 70% of it.
That will require a calculator.
So, what was released online, because we released only first years, are you following? And then later, the final years, other years, and then final years. So, if you check the final, you see the percentage, the total number. So, if you do 70% of 2,000, you are looking at 1,400 and 1,500. You just do 7 times 2. That's how to do mathematics. 7 times 2.4. Are you following? You're looking at about 1,600 or 1,000. That's what was released. And you have about 10,000 first years. So do the arithmetic and the clicking. And you people are digital people. You want to click every time, even when you're not getting, you keep clicking. You know that you should stop, rest, and then keep clicking. So Zix Flat will soon come up by God's grace. So I'm projecting that in the next couple of years, I want to thank God for the Vice Chancellor. He has done massively well to even support BOT, and he's favored, even though he's working in a very bad economy. But a lot of things are coming up, and you can see it. So thank you so much. I think I've explained it. I've taken time to explain so that you can help me convey this correct information. People say, hey, we don't get. One day, a woman called me from Abuja last week. I said, hey, we didn't sleep throughout the night. We were clicking till 3 a.m. Clicking. I said, madam, there is no crime in clicking. Why didn't you sleep in the night? He said, they didn't want to lose. All of a sudden, I had a shout from background. Mommy, I have gotten. Behold and lo, the daughter had gotten bed space. I said, that's how it works. I follow him. He said, it remains one. Then one last thing I will tell you that the boys' hostel, we have enough bed spaces for them. But the boys don't like living in the hostel. or they like living without pay. They want to live in the hostel and squat. That's why you go to one of my rooms, you have 16 boys exchanging boxers and slippers. When you see them, you see a boy wearing yellow slippers and black slippers. Just know that he's in the hostel. They don't care. I'm telling you, they exchange boxers. They don't care. You put beds for them, they will flatten it. Keep the beds by the side, and then put the whole foams on the floor. Because they want it to accommodate more persons. So if you want to know our this, he doesn't know. He's like he knows what I'm saying. That's why he's laughing. But the girls, they have their own problem. Their problem is they squat but less. I know these things. But they're my children. I won't throw them to the bushes. And I don't want the boys to come and take my girls, and one girl threatened me. If you don't give me accommodation, I'm going to stay with a boy. I said, well, you are not serious. So the girls, they like keeping to their things. If you touch their bedsheet or their beddings, you're in trouble. If you cross and put your waist inside their dustbin, you're in trouble. I know my girls, but that's a story of another day. Thank you very much.
Okay,
I've
sir.
enjoyed serving students, and I think I've learned quite a lot. I'm writing a book already over them, about these experiences, because I won't let these experiences slip away. They are going to come in a documented form. So thank you very much.
Right, sir. Thank you very much, sir. I believe this has really cleared the air on this, you like call it hashtag or quote going around that hostel are for the choosing ones. So there has been this hashtag, but from this we can now clearly know that this was evenly allocated and it's very transparent. Thank you very much, sir.